And I'm back again. Hello, everybody. I'm Lee from Gooner Gathering, joined this time by the poshest man in sports entertainment and a magnificent Joey Styles of a commentator himself. Posh Bertie, how are you, sir? It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm just as tired as you are today, but I am doing well. Thank you for the kind words on the watch along last week. Obviously, the result wasn't to be, but I enjoyed doing it on my own. I tried to keep it flowing, and yeah, the numbers were very good. So I'm pleased about that.
Absolutely. And I wanted to make sure I go on record in front of everybody that watches us to say a massive thank you to you. You did a magnificent job. It's not easy going on these things and doing it on your own. Hey, I've just done the review for the ladies' game just about 10 minutes ago, and I went live because I messed it up about 3 times, so I know how hard it is. So, and a massive.
You've got to have a certain twang about yourself. That's what it is. You see.
So you got to have that ebb and flow going, and it just wasn't happening because I was on the floor. But if you want to know the result of that game, look at the previous video. We're here to talk about other things, and before I get into that, thanks everyone who jumped in. Massive audience on that stream that Bertie did. And I knew this comment was come because I saw this earlier on. Hello, Arsenal forever. Says Eddie Howe didn't take 3 years to get Newcastle into the Champions League. Took Arteta 4 years. Say no more. That's what you have to say is this. Trust the process was a big fat lie.
I will say, though, there are some very interesting comparisons to Mikel Arteta and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and that they're very similar. I've seen, so that's what I'm not gonna address anything on that, but there are some interesting things on that matter. Also, Newcastle have got oil money, haven't they? So
exactly, I would suggest very different circumstances that they're dealing with. I want to say, Eddie Howe, say this is what you've done, Arsenal forever. You've taken where we were going to start, and we've just thrown it out the window already. 2 minutes gone. Fantastic. Eddie Howe has done a magnificent job at Newcastle, and I'm not going to dispute that. I think he was always an outstanding manager over at Bournemouth, and his Newcastle side been playing amazingly well. Just look at the other night against Everton, and because that's the game that sort of because I was watching them on another screen.
Yeah.
And of course they came back brilliantly against Southampton when Callum Wilson came off the bench to get them back into the game. But we are an Arsenal channel, and we are going to get into the Man City versus Arsenal game after a couple of days of trying to think about things and where it exactly leaves us. So apart from sitting on the floor, I guess, he smiles, and it's like it's a face of a guy that doesn't want to be here, and I want to talk about Ebbsfleet Town.
I'm already thinking of the summer, drinking Pimm's and watching cricket. You may think that's a gimmick. That's genuinely what I do. So I'm just thinking about what's he said. Eddie Howe has done a magnificent job at Newcastle. No squad overhaul, no excuses. Great football and big results. Yeah, and because we play Newcastle very soon, and I'm not looking forward to that game.
Oh, I am. Because I'll remember Arsenal's forever comment, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen or something and say, yeah, you're right. But in all seriousness and everything. So as Arsenal's season seems to have deteriorated into it's all doom and gloom, do you have any overriding emotions, thoughts on the scoreline, how we played, and where we go from here?
Looking back on it the day after, because obviously for whatever reason, for me, watching it live might be a bit different to how I would probably see it looking back on it. But the day after, I just came to the conclusion, I think, out of all the times I've watched Arsenal, whether it's on the channel or just on my own, it was one of the worst performances I've seen. Partey probably had his worst game I've seen him play. Nobody really turned up. Ramsdale made a couple of saves from Haaland, which was important, but we still lost at the end of the day. It wasn't a good performance, and there's nothing to be positive about in from that game. Man City just completely outplayed us, got played off the park.
Yeah, even this positive Pete of a person, that's not easy to say after a couple of beers. We'll say that it's been a humbling couple of match days. That's for sure. I wonder how much we are going to reflect upon the loss of Saliba in the Lisbon game, and just things not gelling properly since then. Because when you take one player like Saliba out of our makeup, if you like, it affects the whole makeup of the team, how they all perform, because you sort of perform as a unit, don't you?
And you try and play this is what does stress me out with Arteta a bit. He did try to make Rob Holding play exactly like Saliba does. They are completely different defenders. They play completely different styles, and you can't get someone and say do exactly what this person does, because you can't. Holding and Saliba play completely different styles in defence, and trying to get Rob Holding to just do some fancy passes round the back, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely.
Which is why I've got when we get to the Chelsea game, I think I've got a bit of a bombshell to announce what I think should happen. But anyway, we'll get to that soon.
Oh, interesting. So this is what makes this dynamic work, ladies and gentlemen. I love Posh Bertie to pieces, and he knows it, because he's been so helpful to me in getting this channel launched and doing as well we're doing. But if we had the same views all the time, it might be a bit boring. And I play my roles at the as the guy who's trying to be positive and put a smile on my face, like I do, just for you people. But Posh keeps it real. Am I right, or am I right?
I've been more generous about Arsenal this season as I was last season. But that's because I've seen them win a lot compared to last season. But the last few games have not been easy, especially the Man City game. It just reminded me of some of the performances we did last season. No, I'd say the season before, when we were like in like 16th. That's what it reminded me of, the City game. But yeah.
Well, fair enough. I tell you what.
That's why I'm a bit.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what we'll do. We'll press this. That is the lineup that when it and started at the Etihad, and for me, as I try and get back into shot, there I am. Hello, everybody. There's a couple of things that really stood out for me that really was never going to work, and even as a untrained person who watches the football, there's a man, where are we? Zinchenko is there, sort of glares out at you. He's a guy who's a very, very good footballer, but he isn't a brilliant defender. And
he's not. He's a midfielder.
Well,
essentially, he likes to drift in midfield. Right. It was just going to leave gaps for the likes of Grealish to just swarm in.
Exactly my point. You line up with a shape of sorts, and you'd expect to have, certainly when you go to a top team, you want a solid baseline. And I thought it made a lot of sense to play a proper left back who'd want to actually hold position in Kieran Tierney there. And when we see the lineup come out and Zinchenko is playing in that left side position, my heart kind of sank before we even kicked off. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I wanted it to work. I wanted to see Trossard starting, but he didn't. And yeah, Tierney as well, and that didn't happen. And he stole him a bombshell when he said start Kivior. Yeah, that's what I was going to
I
say.
felt that was coming.
Yeah, I'd start Trossard as well. Arsenal forever. But yeah.
Well, we'll get into that in a minute because we'll sort of we'll rapid fire along the Man City game because I don't want to linger around talking about a heavy defeat too long. The other thing, what I would have done personally, I kind of felt this before the match because we knew that Xhaka had an issue pre-match, right? Because he missed the Southampton game, wasn't it? Hello, Stacey. It's nice to see you there again. It's been a whole week since I've seen you. Where have you disappeared to? Anyway, I might have played Zinchenko where Mr. Xhaka would normally play just because of his passing ability, and then he can sort of roam a little bit in the midfield place and keeping Kieran Tierney at left back and defending with a unit of 4. I might even thought about having the unit of 3 with Tierney as the extra centre half, as I kind of mentioned as we were sort of in and out on the stream on Wednesday. Your thoughts to that, sir?
Yeah, the issue is we don't have a backup plan, and we've seen that in the City game. I've not seen any. I haven't seen any action in training, so to speak. But I really hope they focus on a plan B, a backup, because they need to have some kind of cover in place. Because if teams like Southampton and West Ham are now figuring us out and know what we're doing, we need another plan. And I just fear, as shambolic as Chelsea have been this season, if the team that's bottom of the league can figure us out, then Chelsea can do that, which is why we need to have a rotated squad. Well, some players can stay, but there needs to be some names that have to be dropped, and yeah, maybe a change of formation.
Well, if you're going on that route, mate, I'm quite happy to flow, and so we are going to do a Chelsea preview. So let's go into what would you do different to the starting lineup that we picked on in midweek, and wait for the bombshells to drop.
Well, the bombshell, but Arsenal forever stole it. I was going to say I dropped Holding for Kivior. I know I've been a bit. I know I've joked about Kivior, but I think he should start instead of Holding. I think that he is. I've not seen much of him, but I think again Holding, in terms of what our defense plays like, Holding is completely different. I don't know how Kivior has been in defense, but I would personally start him instead of Holding. I'd have Tierney at left back as well. Partey in the last few games, since he gave that ball away to Declan Rice, he has been awful. He has not been he's not been very good. And I hate to say that because he's been very good for us overall. But I would actually drop him and actually play Jorginho against his former club. I know that people say, that might be hypocritical coming from me because I said Jorginho and Xhaka just slow down the midfield. But I think we do need some kind of change. Jorginho has controlled the game. Controls the game more when he's in midfield. The midfield kind of eases a little bit, and there's more with him and Xhaka. I think there's a bit of, and it's weird saying this with Xhaka. There's a bit of calmness with them both in there.
I get you.
And also, Jorginho has incredible vision, as we've seen. Yeah. And I thought Jorginho was a weird signing, but when he's played, he's done well. So I would start him instead of Partey. Instead of Martinelli, I'd play Trossard. It will either be Saka or Martinelli. Martinelli drawn the short straw for me. So Trossard plays. And up front, Nketiah. No, I'm kidding. And that's it.
You're doing a me there.
Yeah.
But no, I think you're right. I think a bit of a freshen up makes a lot of sense. Trossard has done so much for us. He's got so much to offer in terms of he's such a more of a seasoned player, should we say? And I do feel that the younger players have been really stretched to close to breaking point, in all fairness. And I think it makes a lot of sense that we do make a couple of changes, and that made a lot of sense to me. Would you be playing Xhaka again?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I didn't think he looked anywhere near ready, to be honest, on when I know it's a little bit of like almost a week ago.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to say fingers crossed.
Well, it wasn't an injury when he missed out against Southampton,
wasn't it?
And there is no way in hell I'm playing Fabio Vieira. So,
no.
Yeah.
No, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think.
Well, I think he wasn't the best against Southampton, and this Chelsea game is a must-win. We can't really, we can't
You're
have.
Right. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This Chelsea game is absolutely a must-win because no matter what City are doing, I think we as Arsenal need to get back into winning ways because, and you quite rightly have said to us in the private chat and whatever else, that if we don't get our form on track, there are other really good teams that are out there, including, we mentioned Newcastle right at the start, who have been playing some brilliant stuff, who, we need to be worried about. So let me just see that. My 11 for that, okay. Well, again, it's interesting playing Kivia because he's very much an untried guy in terms of our Premier League side. Actually, I do want to see that if you can. Thank you. Because it's very easy. It's very easy because Holding has been there for a long time, and yeah, I agree with you. I agree with a lot of you that he is a little bit limited in his ability, but I would suggest to throw Kivior in at this stage against Chelsea and a side that potentially could really run at him. Like if we mentioned kind of off air that Modric is a very quick player, is wanting to prove himself a bit. I'll be a bit worried to throw him out to the wolves on that. But that's just my feeling on it. A lot of that lineup does make a lot of sense. Are you not playing Saka? That's interesting. Is that as a form thing?
I've seen a couple of people say they play Reece Nelson instead.
I mean, Reece, I've got a lot of time for, honestly, and when he came on, he did make an impact, didn't he? Let's be honest. He did have a couple of moves where he's managed to beat a defender or two, and he does have a bit of experience to go with that as well. He's a little bit older than Saka. I get that viewpoint, and we've spoken often about he does get used match in, match out, and he doesn't get a lot of rest. He's a young player who often we feel that he's going to be at a stage where he's at burnout. But I don't see him being taken out, honestly. But again, we shall see. What do you think, mate?
Yeah, I don't think I'll. I think it's unlikely. Trossard is more likely to start rather than Reece Nelson. I can see him come off the bench at some point. But yeah, I would still play Saka. I think he needs to prove himself, and especially nights at the Emirates. Saka's going to be proper. Hopefully, anyway, he'll be up for it because he's got a lot of criticism. I personally think unfair criticism, but so he needs to try and step up to the plate, and I'd still have him, and I'd have Trossard as well instead of Martinelli.
fair enough. It's very, very difficult to to get a makeup
It's such
of
a small squad, like
yeah.
that's why.
But yeah, no, you're right, and that's something I think we are going to address in the summer. We'd have to, because if we go into say next season, I know I'm looking ahead of myself here, but if we go into next season as light as we are now
in the Champions League,
it might not get very pretty. In all fairness.
Oh, hello.
Hello, Red United. Nice to see you. Hello.
Good to see you. Banter FC, no wins in 5 games. Good to see you too, sir.
Listen, I don't mind comments like that as long as you're hitting the like button and hitting the subscribe button, and make sure you keep on popping in to see us. Send regards to Devil for us.
I think that is him.
Do you know what? It could be.
Bernard got a trophy his first season, took your coach 4 years. Hang on. Didn't Arteta did win a trophy in his first season at Arsenal? It wasn't even his first full season. It was his first few months.
FA Cup.
Champions League football. There you go. Okay, now you're changing it. All right then.
Backtrack.
I will say that if you do, you already have had a better season than us because you've won a trophy. But if you win the FA Cup this season, especially, you would have. That's my opinion, but that's football.
Again, I think this is where we might disagree, but I do respect your point, and picking up the trophies is important. But I mean, it's interesting how you look at it, and and I don't think Arsenal deliberately made themselves very weak to go out the cup competitions as they did, but it's kind of putting the priorities up where we know we do have a limited squad. Just my thoughts. And as much as I will get ridiculed for it, boys and girls, and listen, this is this is my baby, and I will take it, because you can take the mickey out of me as much as you like. I don't mind at all. But all it's going to take is one bizarre old result, and then all of a sudden everything's wide open again. It could have happened yesterday, and I'm going to say coulda, woulda, shoulda. Yeah, and I know it didn't happen, but Premier League is such a funny old thing that we might have gone in, and I did, and I recorded it. I might not have been able to do the live match yesterday, but as soon as Haaland put the penalty away, I thought, oh dear, this could get a bit ugly. But as soon as Fulham got themselves right back into the game as quick as they did, you thought, oh, maybe. And ultimately, it did only end up 2-1. The game could have gone another way. And if it wasn't for the former Arsenal goalkeeper, Leno, it probably could have gone a bit.
Tony Khan couldn't do us a favour, his Fulham side. But yeah.
It's a shame. But all Arsenal need to worry about, and you kind of touched on this with me off camera, didn't you? Is that we need to focus more on what we're doing rather than what Man City are doing. And go ahead.
Yeah, that was one of the quite a few problems, I should say, against West Ham and Southampton. I think the players focused on Man City and their form a bit too much. And I think that's what you do, I know, when it's crunch time, but I think that's what they focused on too much. And that was one of the many reasons why we've been dropping points. I think they need to stop focusing on City and focus on themselves more.
That's a very interesting and very deep comment.
If the fish doesn't open its mouth, it can't be caught. I
quite like that. Arsenal forever. You could actually make it as a poet. I think that's an amazing comment. I respect it. I totally get where you're coming from. That's a good one. I like that. But look, as I said, I think now that City have taken the position off us. And it's practically been all season. It's over 200 days. I think we've been top of the table. It'll be interesting to see how we start the game. I really hope we don't kick the ball back to Ramsdale. I'll say that much straight off the bat because I don't think my heart can cope with things like that.
Aubameyang.
Especially after what I've witnessed this evening. But
runs in both clubs.
Yeah, it certainly
How
does.
about don't do it? How about don't pass around the back? I know that's this crazy idea, but
oh mate, I don't know. Take me back to the days of Dave Seaman in goal when he just got rid of the ball, please. Let's just not mess about. I know the game's moved on, boys and girls. I know. I'm very old. I'm sorry. But
and I feel old watching Arsenal nowadays.
Oh, well, mate, no, you're eternally looking younger every time I see you. I don't know how you do it. Okay, Red United.
He's talking about the United's new owners. I think it's likely the Qatar owners will go to you, and yeah, you'll be, if that happens, you will be a serious threat again. So that's my opinion, and that's why we, Arsenal Football Club, need to buck our ideas up in the transfer window. If you want to be competing with clubs like United that are going to improve, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. I would imagine the Qatari owners or the potential owners, that's where the money is going to be. That's where the serious money is. That's where Man City have managed to get their fame and fortune from as well. So yeah, it's going to be a very interesting summer. I said this just a moment ago that we are going to need to definitely bolster our squads.
Yeah.
There's certainly going to be a lot of movement. I certainly feel that in terms of going in and out the club. And that's how we're going to have to see things going forward, because I think that where Arsenal have done so well this season in being in the Champions League places as opposed to being in the Europa League places, if you like, it's definitely a different kettle of fish, if you like. And I would hope that we'll be looking at them elite kind of players, maybe a sort of step above what we have at the moment. That, again, is just my opinion. We shall see, and probably have a little chat, probably when the season's done, about what we are going to do and where we feel our squad will end up over the summer. That makes sense to me, because I think what we want to do as a channel is just sort of focus on each game. I know I say this all the time, each game as it goes, because until everything is, mathematically all done with and forgotten about, and I know what you're all thinking. City aren't going to drop any points anywhere. They're far too strong, and they can take De Bruyne out, and they can put a World Cup winner in, and he'll score a world-class goal.
I think the most, if, and it's a big if because it's Man City, but if they are going to drop points, the most likely would be away to Brighton. But that's just wishful thinking.
Agree. And that will be the daft thing about this Premier League. So what one fixture can change everything. Thank you for the full time, Arsenal Forever. I was just going to bring up the fact that Alex Iwobi did score an equaliser in this tie. Leicester 2, Everton 2. I don't personally think that does either of the teams any favours whatsoever. But we'll look at that another time. I haven't seen the league table since, because I'm currently in front of the camera. But knowing how tight it is, I think both sides are going to be disappointed with that. Particularly Leicester, who I said, if you go all the way back to the start of the season in our previous lives, and I thought they were in all sorts of trouble, and I still feel that. But there you go. Right, where's me train of thought? I know what I was going to say. Before we go off air tonight, because I don't want us to go particularly late tonight, because I've been up all hours of the day. It's a bank holiday Monday as well. I've been a jolly busy boy, and they work this old man very hard today at a certain brand of supermarket, which I won't mention, but they worked me very hard today. There is a bit of transfer news I want to say about. Do you know what? I'm going to put the pin in that. I want to ask you a prediction for tomorrow's game before I go into this. Well, what do you think? We're going to get at the end of this game tomorrow.
Look, Chelsea at the moment have been absolutely shambolic. Frank Lampard arguably has done worse than Potter since he's taken over. And so obviously it's all leading up to Frank Lampard getting his first win as Chelsea manager here. However, I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Arsenal. I think Chelsea will score first. I think we'll equalise going into half time, and we'll score in the second half. It'll be 2-1 to Arsenal.
My plea to anyone who is lucky enough to get up to Emirates Stadium tomorrow is be as passionate as the 60,000 plus people that were at the Emirates tonight.
Oh, no.
It was an incredible atmosphere, and every single one of you are in that stand have a part to play in getting this side home to a decent result. Arsenal forever going for a 2-2 draw. Yeah, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But even me, as the positive Pete of the channel, shall we say, with all due respect to my positive Pete, my dad up in heaven over there, it's it ain't going to happen, is it? In terms of a league title, we have to win, absolutely no doubt. I know I said this prior to Man City, and I stand by it, but we have to go for the win in this match. There's no excuses on this one, because honestly, Chelsea look like they've taken about 500 steps back, and it doesn't make it's a really weird one for me. I don't want to spend an awful time on Chelsea and how they've digressed somewhat, because it's a very weird one. It will take forever to figure out, but sometimes when you throw a lot of money into a club and it doesn't necessarily go right, and you can change the manager as much as you want to, and you can criticize when you want to, it might not necessarily work too well. The grass isn't always as green on the other side of the fence, you know. There you go. That's my wise
poetic. It's a song by Travis.
Absolutely. Why does it always rain on me? I don't know. But before we conclude our business for this evening, and before we plug tomorrow's live stream, which I know you're looking forward to,
if I'm there, I'll try,
mate. If you can't do it, you can't do it. I'll get myself and my lovely little girl to do it. We'll do it side by side. It'll be great. It's what the people want. But before we disappear for the evening, I do want to bring up a bit of news that came about earlier today, and that is the news that this young man here, Charlie Patino, Arsenal youngster who's been away from the club all season. He's been playing at now relegated.
Blackpool.
Goodness, thank you. I just had an absolute brain fart. Excuse me, but yeah, he's been playing at Blackpool. From all accounts, the kid's been playing pretty good in a side that's been struggling. They got relegated literally the other day. But news came about through the big journos, I think Orney and others say that he is going to move away from Arsenal in the summer. It won't be a loan move. It'll be a permanent move. Arsenal quite willing to let him move along and try and help him continue his development as a player. Just your initial thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen much of Patino in action. I know that he played a couple of games in the Carabao Cup. Did he score in one of them, I believe.
Absolutely did.
Yeah. So I've not seen much of him. I don't think he was ever going to break into the first team.
Hmm.
Based on who is in the squad, but I don't. Yeah, he's been off the bench a couple of times.
Yeah.
I haven't really got much to say about him. I do wish him well. I hope he does
Yeah.
become a decent player. And yeah, imagine Caicedo next party. It could be like Vieira and Petit. Ooh,
Yeah, it could be. Absolutely. But any
two
Arsenal
tanks.
fans honestly think that we're going to get Casado, I would suggest to you, probably not, because he signed a new contract. Do you all know that?
Think we're more likely to get a Declan Rice. Maybe.
And if that happens, Patino's place in the squad would have gone further down. He would have been probably fifth choice at best.
Yeah,
And
so you can see why he's going. So I
yeah,
don't. Again, not much to say. Yeah, I hope he does well. Wherever he goes, he'll probably go to another championship club. I think next season. That'll be my prediction.
and I think that's a fair assumption as well. And honestly, I really do. I have seen bits and pieces of him. He does have a lot of natural ability. He would find it very difficult to get up to the Arsenal level.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I was getting at earlier on as well, with in the strength of depth wanting to go up in the squad. He's going to find it very difficult, especially with the other people around him. And it's best for him as his career as well. It will most likely flourish, like you said, particularly in the championship. So we'll see how all this one progresses at the end of the season. I know so Blackpool certainly went down. I wouldn't imagine he'll return up to the Seagulls on over there. I wouldn't have thought so. But yeah, anyway. I think probably now, I think unless you've got anything else to add, I think that'll probably do us for tonight, mate. You reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very tired. I want to go to bed. Being the guy who looks about 12 years old, it's obviously past my bedtime.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And being the other guy who's been up since about 5 o'clock this morning, I definitely need to have a break as well. So, with all that being said, you can find us all on the social medias. There, Bertie, would you like to tell them where they can
Yeah,
find
I'm
you?
on Twitter at Posh Bertie and Instagram at Bertie Wanless.
You can find me asleep on a couch somewhere very shortly. You can find me at Goonally Mead. You can find all of us on the channel at Gooner Gathering. You can find us on the channel. I think I scheduled it about 10 minutes before kickoff tomorrow. So wherever you're watching across the world, I'll certainly be here. My daughter will be here. Hopefully, this beautiful man over there will be with me, and we'll go through play by play as we do for a bit of alternative commentary, and fingers crossed we have a positive result. I want to say thank you very much to everyone who's been watching us this evening. If you haven't already hit the like button, make sure you do so. Please hit the subscribe button, and until tomorrow night, boys and girls, look after yourselves. Have a good evening, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.